challenges come and go. We live and prosper with the success of the semiconductor industry. And we're going through a tough patch in the semiconductor industry today. Mm-hmm. Last year, the growth rates of the chip industry were essentially flat or zero. This next year, they're expected to be modestly decline. And the chip industry is the single largest driver of our business.
Anything in the domain of emulation? How do you see the trend over there?
Well, I think that emulation is going to be a very large business. I mean, this is one of the consequences of Moore's law, which is as the number of transistors in an IC double every 18 to 24 months, so do the number of lines of RTL. Mm-hmm. And with processors no longer being able to increase clock speeds, it means that the time to verify the logic would be going up at Moore's law rates as well. And the alternative is emulation, which can be 1,000 or more higher in performance than simulation. So I think the chip industry for all digital design is moving towards emulation. I think it could be $1 billion market in the next 5 years. We went through a slowing this last year for the first time in a while, but I think it will recover.
How do you position yourself regarding the rapid growth of demand for the transportation market, product and services?
Well, within the EDA industry, we're unique. We've had a footprint in transportation since the early 1980s. We created printed circuit board technology, arguably for the transportation and military aerospace companies, and we've been actively involved with them ever since. We got involved with cable and wire harness design in the late 80s, and emulation in the mid 90s. We've gotten involved in AUTOSAR, embedded software for ECUs, about 8 years ago, and most recently we're involved in large complex Linux applications for the driver experiences inside the cockpit of a car. Mm-hmm. We're unique within the EDA industry to bring all that wealth of product and that many years of experience to that industry. Well, I think the consolidation is, as I would say, just one of the inevitable consequences of the slowing of the chip industry. Mm-hmm. So as the industry slows, they've got to find ways to reduce costs. They reduce costs in part through consolidation. In the short term, it isn't helpful to our top line, but we'll manage through this and we'll see good times again. What I think is that there will be, just like there's been in the past, there's going to be a new wave of activity. So if you go back to the 80s, it was largely defense that drove the semiconductor industry. Then in the early 1990s, it was the personal computer. Then it was mobility of one sort or another. More recently, it's been internet. And the very last period of time has been the computer in the pocket or the smartphone. We're going to see a new wave of innovation and growth. It'll come from automotive electronics and Internet of Things, and I think the best years are here to come. Well, I think for the moment, I mean, we always have feelers out into domains that are new to both EDA and, for that matter, to the entire electronics market. But we've got our hands pretty full with automotive electronics, with embedded software. But on top of that, we've got efforts going on in design for security, in Internet of Things, and system of systems in the printed circuit board cabling business. So no shortage of opportunities. It's a very innovative crowd that are working at Metagraphics.
Okay, and they seem to be on the market a few domains that are kind of seems to be promising for the future. I'm thinking about a few here. The domain of sensing and sensors and MEMS and everything. Do you think Mentor can have a specific play or role in this market?
Well, certainly we're exploring that. But I mean, what you have is IoT has some form of sensors plays basically in Internet of Things. I mean, the automobile applications, most of them are a form of Internet of Things. And what you have is a sensor. You have some kind of relatively low cost, power efficient processor. And you have a means of communication. Sensors and MEMS are one portion of that. We have a new offering in the Tanner line of custom layout tools, which would seem to play an important role in MEMS and sensors. We've been involved with the low power processor companies for years and years, as well as communication. So I think we're well suited.
Okay, thank you very much. Another domain that everyone is talking about is cloud applications, and I heard that maybe Mentor is also looking at this type of space.
Well, there's the aspect of, as I mentioned, Internet of Things. You need to communicate, and the cloud's one vehicle of communication. So certainly we will participate in that fashion. There's also a possibility of some role for EDA tools in the cloud. The first that comes to mind is emulation. Not all companies who need sometimes access to emulation have the demand that will support the cost of a emulator on site. So the march of Moore's Law will force them to find another way to do their chip verification other than simulation. They're not either big enough or don't have often enough use for an emulator. And I think that could be a first application for EDA tools on some form of the cloud.
Are you also looking at the cloud through your embedded software division?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've got efforts going on in terms of the client as well as the edge device. Well, Israel for at least 15 or 20 years has been the second most important market for EDA tools. You have Silicon Valley, which is the largest. The second is the world between basically Tel Aviv and Haifa. Okay, and so the density of startups, the density of engineers is astonishing here. This is the hottest startup market for semiconductors in the world, and I expect it to continue to be. One of the parts which I think is fascinating, which is indicative of both how innovative the people here are, as well as aggressive and ambitious, is this country, despite the fact that it has, for all intents and purposes, no transportation industry outside of the military, already has 35 startups in automotive electronics. That's saying something.